So the main idea with tessellations is you need to figure out what the interior angles are of the shapes involved. And you should be able to come up with exactly 360 degrees where they meet. And if you can, then this pattern can be repeated indefinitely and you'll be able to tile this floor, quote unquote, right? It's not always tiling, but you can use these shapes to tessellate. And so, for example, an equilateral triangle or regular polygons, right? So an equilateral triangle, you would be able to, given that the interior angle is 60, if you go 360 divided by that 60, you get exactly 6 triangles. So this can be tessellated. Pentagons, on the other hand, if you find the interior angle of a pentagon, it's 108. If you go 360 divided by 108, you get a decimal. You need a bit more to fill that remaining gap, and you can't, not using pentagons. So this one would be impossible to tessellate. And then I gave you some examples here on what would work and what wouldn't work and how to do so, right? So for example, if you have triangles, squares, and hexagons, you figure out all the interior angles of every shape involved, start subtracting from 360. So you do one shape for sure once. And if there's something left, if you can use one of these shapes to fill in the remaining gap until you get to 0, first of all, the answer is you can tessellate, and the combination would have been one triangle, 2 squares, and a hexagon in this case, right? And I did one where no matter what we did, there was some left over that couldn't be filled with any of the shapes that we had, and that would not be able, you couldn't use that to tessellate. And then I did one question here where and I'm going to ask you to try this right away, actually. Okay. On what page is this on for you here? Because it doesn't quite match the one because I added. So this is on page 23 for you. Go to page 23 real quick here. So Natasha is planning to on using regular octagons to tile a floor. Can he tile a floor using only octagons? If not, what other shape can be introduced to tile a floor? So the interior angles of octagons is 135. So I go 360 divided minus, I'm left with 90, right? So we could clearly tell that that would have to be a square. And this is how you would show your work, right? The 90-degree interior angle, you figure out the number of sides, and it is actually 4. So square is what is needed. I'm going to show you an easier way of doing this to figure out what other shape needs to be used for that. So go with me. I'm going to now go to the workbook. I hope you have your workbook on you. We're going to go all the way to page 41 in your workbook. Bottom of 41. There's that tiling. This is a tiling question. Or tessellation. Okay. So go to page 41, question 6. Okay. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to try that one. If you have your notes filled in, if you don't mind going back to your notes, and after this question, the question for Nitish, if you just say more, if you want more examples, page 41, question 6 in the workbook. And I'll show you more after. There isn't a whole lot of these, but you have to be ready for a tiling question. Okay. So try that one. Give that one a try. See if you would be able to even attempt this one if I threw something like this at you. So for this one here in particular, so we're using regular polygons. That is a must basically for this, otherwise you can't do it. So everything has the same angle, same length. At each corner there's one square and a hexagon, right? What is the third tile shape, right? So you can do something like this. I don't need you to, for the ones that we know for sure, right? We know a square has interior angles of 90, interior of a hexagon. I don't know if you remember that. If you remember that, I'm fine. You're just writing down 120 or calculate it quickly, right? N minus 2 times 180 divided by n. So then once you have that established, there's technically, right, what is that last shape, right? We don't know what the number of sides. We will find out soon what the angle is that needs to be covered, right? So we go 360 minus 90, right? That gets you 270. Minus 120, that gets you to 150, right? The question does tell you what's the third shape, right? It doesn't say, oh, maybe you can use a combination. Like, let's say if we took away 90 here, we were left with 60, right? Like if you took away one of these, or let's say you took away 120, you'd be left with 30. You can't do anything with that. If you took off another 90, you put another square in there, you're left with 60. Then you could have used an equilateral triangle. But it's just saying you're going to use one of these, and a third shape. So that's what we're after. So what's what I'm going to do here. The interior angle of question mark would be 150 degrees. What would the exterior angle of this polygon be? If the interior is 150, the exterior is? You don't have to erase if you did it your way. You might be okay. But remember that interior and exterior, they add up to 180, correct? These two are supplementary. Supplementary. So we remember, if you remember, the exterior angle of any regular polygon is just this. We know that exterior angle is 30. We'll go 360 over n. Put a 1 here. Right? 360 times 1 divided by 30. And that is 9, right? So 9 sides. You can say that a nonagon is the third shape. Nonagon is the third shape, or you could say a polygon with 9 sides is required. I'm fine with that. A regular polygon with 9 sides, unless it asks you for the name, you can do it this way. If you use the formula for interior angles, that's fine. It's just a bit more work, maybe. You just have to be careful. Okay, maybe I'll show you how that is done. I will just go arrow like this, okay? I plug that in here. So I figured out the interior angle remaining to tile. I figured out the exterior, and I ran with that one. Yeah. Oh. Sorry. You were all wondering, right? What's wrong with this direction? 360 divided by, yeah, that is 12. It's not a nonagon. Sorry, guys. What do we call that one? Anybody? A dodecagon. My bad. Thank you, Luca. Monday blues. It's 12. If you wanted to do it the other way, right? If you wanted to use that method, no problem, right? You multiply both sides by n, get rid of that, so that's 150n. Distribute this, it's 180n minus 360. Bring the 180n over, right? So you go minus 180n minus 180n. That gives you negative 30n is equal to negative 360. You divide both sides by negative 30, and you can tell that you're going to get the same answer, right? So both are acceptable. You go for whatever works for you. Okay. All right. When it comes to, like, I just wanted to have one more of these tiling scenarios. So if it's just same shape that you're using, can you use all squares? Just make sure you go 360 divided by 90 and see if it's a whole number. That's all fine. Just make sure you know how to do those. I gave you a bunch of ACs on Friday, right? Remember those? I put the keys up on Google Classroom, so I'll just show you. It will not be on the video, but these are the test review ACs. So there's 3 of them, right? So that those are good to use for a review. I also brought up all of the keys, basically that I've posted for this unit, which is a bit overwhelming, I know, but you just go dig and find the one you're interested in. So if you have done those 3 ACs already, I'll go back to my notes here and I'll just tell you what you can use to review for the test. Okay, so here we go. The back of the booklet, the back of the note booklet, I'm just going to give you a test checklist. And I think I'll give you the rest of the class to just prepare and get your study sheets ready and all that stuff. Give me 1 second here. Here it is. So this is for chapter 2, right? You will use, right, corresponding angles, alternate interior, alternate exterior, or CIAs, right, to show if lines are parallel, right? So you got to make sure you know how to do that. And remember, the first 3 that I list, I do that on purpose because those are congruent. The CIAs need to add up to 180. You're gonna be able to solve, right? Solve for mystery angles, right? Using justification, right? Justification, you're gonna have to justify. So it's basically the charts, right? Polygons, right? Polygons. You gotta know formulas, and specifically these ones, right? Sum of interior, central, exterior, number of diagonals. Inscribe polygons. Know isosceles formulas. Right, so you have your triangle, 180, right? Trapezoid, 360. Those are the most common ones, right? Pentagon, 540. These are also good to just have if you want to review for the exam at the end of the year, right? You just go, what was the test checklist again, right? You come back here. And following inscribed, right? Following that, be able to show if lines are parallel, right? You gotta, there might be a diagonal in there. Let me try here. I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna just do a pentagon like this, right? So assume that, right, there's AB and CD, right? Be able to figure out angles using polygons, using sum of triangle, whatever you need to do to show whether or not lines are parallel. Okay? And again, you need to be able to show that one of the four angle pairs actually meets a certain criteria. Okay. Inscribe polys, this one. Tessellations, right? Tiling questions. Questions involving variables, right? So for example, you have a parallel line scenario, and there's 2x, and this is x minus 2, right? You have to figure out for x. You have to know something is true about them, perhaps, right? Maybe they're inside a triangle. Maybe in this case they're consecutive interior. Stuff like that. Are they corresponding? What's happening? And somehow find a way to solve for the variable. You got to know how to do that. Backwards questions. Right? Find n for polygon. So if it's asking you, hey, the interior angle of this polygon is this, right? How many sides would it have? And I will have a random question. This is from chapter 8. And scale factor. Right? So it's one-dimensional, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, right? So you have a little bit of this would be chapter 8 review, right? This is just some of this stuff from chapter 8 that will be at the end. So maybe 2 questions, one more renovation style, one more scale factor, like that, and then the rest is all up to you. Just go through my notes. At the top of this page that I just gave you, I filled my page up completely. So I'm just gonna give you some page numbers in your booklets that you can try. So let me just go up here, and if I just look at this book and I posted the keys here, I'm just gonna give you a range of pages here. So I'm gonna say try workbook, and I'm just gonna give you a blanket range here. So 16 all the way to 23. That is a pretty good archive for what you need to know. And if you look through the keys, you will find them there. And let the quiz help you. Quiz is a very good indicator as to what you're expected to know. Just add tiling to it. And I won't make the random question too crazy. Okay, it won't be a super long one. But remember your cost, including taxes, stuff like that. That's it. You have the rest of the class to get ready, guys.